Welcome to the Embodied Dharma podcast. This is our second session, and I'm thrilled that Sharada is joining me today. I feel as soon as I saw you, I just felt this wave of joy. There's so much I want to talk to you about. So much to talk about since we last spoke, since we've been speaking over the last many months. This topic of conversation today about Ma and the power of Ma, the importance of Ma, the healing wisdom of Ma for these dark times is so relevant for this moment. It's also what we talk about and what you do and what you embody. And it's perfect timing for us to have this conversation today. And I've also had a lot of insights over the last several months about the divine feminine, mother, and even as it relates to the Jyotish chart. So I'm going to probably weave some of that into our conversation as well today. And for those of you who don't know Sharada, she is a powerful teacher in her own right. She joined me this year in the Inner Light Jyotish Summit. That's actually how we first connected. And thank you, Kaya, for that introduction. That's very sweet. And this sweet friendship has blossomed. There's a lot of interconnectedness in our teachings, our understandings of the world, our worldview, and even our background with Vedic knowledge and wisdom. And Sharada has some incredible initiatives, I'll say, taking place that I'm a part of in some capacity, right? And we'll weave that in today as well. There are some really exciting things that she's creating and bringing out into the world that support women and, of course, Ma, the Great Mother. So I'm thrilled to have you here today and back together, in fact, for our conversation today. It's very sweet to have you here. And let me do a little introduction for those of you who may or may not be familiar with Sharada Devi. And she is a spiritual mentor. She's a ceremonialist, and you bring ritual into your work and all that you do with the Devi school. And you bring ancient wisdom, embodied spirituality, as well as womb healing. I mean, a big part of what you offer and what you support your women with is healing of the womb and healing the divine feminine within. And you bring 20 years, over 20 years of dedication, study in Vedanta, yoga, tantra, Sanskrit, Vedic, chanting, Ayurveda, puja, rituals, and of course, you're also a Vedic dancer and you've been trained in the Vedic arts. So that somatic and embodied wisdom shows up in everything that you do. And it's one of the reasons why I love our conversations and I love our intersection of awareness with body and goddess and the wisdom of the Vedas as well. So I just want to say thank you, Sharada, for joining. It actually worked perfectly because she lives in Bali full time, but she happens to be in Europe right now for our session today, and the timing is much better, actually, to meet in Europe and European time rather than Bali time. So we get to have her live today, and it's perfect timing. So, Shraddha, thank you so much for being here today. And I'm going to invite you to start and share first. So, what does honoring Ma and the divine feminine mean for you? And how does that show up in your life, in your body, and in your offerings and your work?
Thank you so much for having me and for your love and welcoming and flower shower and word flower love shower. Yeah, feel
Mm.
deeply touched and moved. And it means so much. to me, first of all, that I can be here with you all, with you, dear Saraswati, and all those that are live and those that are going to watch this. Um, yeah, it has been so sweet. This or sweet. It has been everything
Mm.
since we met and talked. We
Yeah.
both have been traveling and maneuvering the ocean of sacred emotions, yet in and through the madhu, the sweetness,
Mm.
we kept and yeah, it's that madhu, that madhuriam, that sweetness in Bali. Madhu means honey, and in India, madhu is sweetness, and it's that vow of sweetness that my teacher shared with me, like part of the sacred studies of the Vedic knowledge is the Dharma studies, and to discover the value of values. Like Buddha Swamiji would say, that a value is only my value when the value of the value is really valuable to me. It's a profound statement.
Yeah.
The truth, the discovering the value of the value. And one of the values is that sweetness, that madhuvratam, that vow of sweetness. And it's been carrying me
Mm.
through my life and connecting that to your question is present
Mhm.
in my life through my teachings. Like that's what you had asked, Ma, in the form of in
Yeah.
my life or in our life is really teachings. Um, like she is that nectar, the amrtatvam. She is the madhu, the sweetness, in and through life, and that nurtures us in and through every single situation in life. And she can. That's how she has been in my life. Like even though yes, life has been full of roller coasters and the sacred ocean of emotions and challenges and initiations. And that is the fullness of life. Like yesterday, we closed the trimester 2 of the Golden Womb, and the Golden Womb is one of my main programs. We started in November. Yesterday, trimester 2, we ended. And we've been together for 8 months. And in those 8 months, we literally went through births. There were two women giving birth to two beautiful little girls, Davies. One of our main facilitators, faculty member, Efu Nyaki, an incredible healer, somatic experiencing teacher and family constellation teacher, passed away just
Mm.
months ago. I went through pregnancy, an abortion, and a yoni birth.
Mm.
And so much has happened these last 8 months, like
Mm.
for
Mm.
so many of us, individually, collectively. And and this is Ma too, like that is the fullness of life. And what I said yesterday is like, yeah, what do we expect if we ask for moksha, if we ask for freedom, if we ask for truth, if we ask for unconditional love? It's going to be everything. Can you embrace everything, everyone with
Mm.
sweetness? But the one that you get to embrace the most with sweetness is myself. It's my mind. It's my inner critic. It's my inner judge. It's my inner enemy, um, or the one that is self-sabotaging, the inner woman that doesn't feel good enough, the internalized, like all this internalization from this life and maybe other lives, a lot like in this system that we are in, and have created a self-image that is not one that we're proud of or that is acceptable because we're constantly comparing ourselves to everyone and everything else. So it's this inner fight, like, which is portrayed by the Bhagavad Gita, the outer fight. It's really the inner fight with that inner enemy, with the one that is always judging. And like my teacher would say, I could never be a friend to anyone if I'm not my own best friend.
It's
And
true.
so for me, that I was able to become my own best friend, which is still ongoing. um, I hope I'm still here with you. Now I don't see you anymore. And maybe the connection disappeared. But yeah, let's see if we're gonna come back together again. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Yes, now I can hear you
I'm
again.
here. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Sacred connection. Yeah,
There
so the
could be a
becoming
little
my
more of that.
is that like you said, the Mercury retrograde, but like becoming my own best friend and also my own best lover, and all of
Mm,
that was the grace of Ma. Like
mm,
she's the one through her teaching, through her Dharma, through the knowledge, through women's circle, like she helped me to
mm.
become that own best friend and meet myself with sweetness. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, it starts with self. And Ma, we are each a reflection of Ma. And actually, I think that that is why there's such potency in this moment now. And and that's really where our conversation um, begins in many ways, because there's something happening on the planet right now,
Mm, mm,
especially with women.
mm,
Women are awakening in very powerful ways. Women are stepping into their power and befriending our bodies and awakening in ways that we haven't seen before on the planet. That is part of this potent shift, that's taking place. And why center Ma now, and why the divine feminine is so important for the now, this moment. So, I have some Jyotish ideas as to
mm,
why. And we brought this into our conversation last month with Yashoda Devi Ma. And this might be the ongoing question that I keep asking all year uh,
mm,
in this podcast. But there's there's something special about this moment and this timing, right? That the divine feminine is awakening in a way that we haven't seen in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So, um, I want to just remind everyone what my intention is for this podcast. And I do want to just honor Ganapati today, because he is my Ishta Devata, and also there's just it's a kind of a strange day, and I want to support the removal of any more obstacles. And then, Sharadha, if you feel inspired to offer an invocation to the Devi, I would invite you to share as well. Okay, so
well,
my intention for the Embodied Dharma podcast is to bring illuminating conversations and powerful Dharmic leaders into a conversation to inspire and uplift those of us walking a Dharmic path. It is very lonely on this path at times, and certainly when we look around this world, those of us committed to our Dharmic path can often feel isolated, or there are struggles. This is not an easy path, certainly in this yuga. And so having the inspiration, the guidance, the support along the way is truly essential. It really is. So my hope is that these conversations will continue to support nourishment and resources and inspiration for your dharmic path specifically. And our conversations center around goddess, divine feminine, and embodying dharma, what that actually means for your body and your life. And in honor of this path of moksha, liberation, dharma, I offer an invocation to Lord Ganesha. And he is also my Ishta Devata, and so it feels important for my dharmic path as well to honor him in this moment, as well as the fact that Mercury's retrograde, it's Mula Nakshatra today, and we have a full moon, and I already had a link issue that I messed up. So let's honor Ganesha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om. And Sharada, would you like to share one of your potent chants for Devi as we begin?
Yeah, I will love that. What comes is form, as Devi, as Saraswati, for Aikyamatya, for our hearts and minds to be in Aikyam, in oneness, and to engage in Samvada Suktam, in the praise. Suktam means praising, in Samvada, in the highest form of dialogue. And so we can neutralize any miscommunication, and we can gather the world family, the dharmic world family, on this path of dharma towards moksha, where we have one intention, to return, to protect those that follow dharma, and to remind each other that we are whole and complete, essentially. Om Ata Samvada Suktam Aikyamatya Suktam Om Sam Samityuvase Vishannakne Vishwaanyarya Ilaspade Samidhyase Sano Vasunya Bhara Sangachadvam Sambadadvam Sambo Manaam Sijanatam Deva Bhagayatha Purve Sanjanana Upasate Samano Mantra Samiti Samani Sa Manam Manassaha Chittame Esham Samanam Mantram Abhimantraye Vassamanena Vohavisha Ajuhomi Samani Vaaku Utis Samana Hridayani Vaha Samanamastu vo mano yatha avassu sahasati Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Aim Hrim Om Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Dum Durgayai Namaha. Om Hrim Shrim Paramalakshmyai Namaha.
Om. Jima.
Jema.
It's actually a powerful time to meet today and speak of the Devi, the goddess, the divine feminine, on this powerful full moon day. Full moon is in Sagittarius, which always correlates to Dharma, right? Ninth house of wisdom, as well as Purva Ashada. This nakshatra is ruled by Appas, the water goddess. And what better time to talk about the divine feminine as well as the emotional body and the powerful wisdom of water, the intelligence of water and the divine feminine. And so we begin our conversation today with, actually, I'm just going to ask you a bold question to start, Sharada. Why not? Why is Ma the answer to all of our problems?
Because Ma is truth. As truth being love, like the truth is love. Love is consciousness that we get to discover, that our essential nature is consciousness, not something objectifiable, but the very essence of every object, right? Because of which every object, every experience exists, without which no object, no experience, no thought, no world, no nama rupa, no name, form, function exists. And so Ma, like, she is that Shakti, that power that is the source of existence, and her essence, her the truth, like as Sat, the truth of Ma is Sat Chit, is consciousness. And that Sat, which is existence, which is timeless, which in timelessness as consciousness, is like Anta means end, Ananta means no end. So here, no end means limitless. And so it's a limitless consciousness, a limitless existence. That is Ma, from her own standpoint, as her Nirgunam Brahma, as the Ma Brahma, as the form that is Nirgunam, formless. And so if we, like, not if, like, that is, that is the answer, because her essence is that truth, which is Nirgunam Brahma, which is consciousness. That consciousness is love. And that is the adhishtanam, that is the support, the substratum, and it's the cause, the karanam, the cause of this whole universe. And so
Mm-hmm.
everything comes from that existence, which is consciousness, which is limitlessness, infinite existence. And so
Mm.
every problem that we have belongs to this mithya world, through this relative world. It's within relationships, right? And so I, as a daughter, have a problem when I relate to my mother. I, as the citizen relating to my state, I have a problem. I, as a Filipina, I have a problem relating to colonization. I, as a Swiss person, have a problem with Switzerland, right? But that is the relative person. That's the ahankara, the one that makes a judgment upon herself based on the circumstances, based on the situation, based on the experiences, based on what other people have said about me. But everything anyone says about me is wrong.
Mm.
Because it's always that's always relating to the relative. And so the relative, we can only resolve it really with the absolute ultimately. If I resolve a relative problem with a relative solution, guaranteed there will be a new relative problem. And
Mm.
so, yes, I can resolve the relative problems and with relative solutions, which that is the karmic, that's the dharma, like that's what we can do as a jiva, as an individual. We have that will, and we have the faculty of choice and the power of action, but that's all from the standpoint of the relative reality, the vyavahara, we call it, the transactional reality. And when we say Ma is the answer to everything, then we're bringing in the paramartika, the absolute reality. And from the absolute standpoint, there's only consciousness, right? Like from the standpoint of gold, there is only gold. There is no nose ring, there is no bangle, there is no necklace, from the standpoint of gold. There is
Mm.
no differentiation between the nose ring and the bangle. So there is, from the standpoint of Ma as existence, there is no differentiation between you and I, from the
Mm.
standpoint of pure being. Like, so then from the gold, that's an example. And it's to exemplify, the that example is limited, the golden ornament, but it's a very powerful example that helps us point to you and me and all of us. We are the ornaments, like this brown hair is the ornament, and this nose and these eyes, and but that's not the truth of who I am. What I am is a being, just like you are a being. We're all a being, and that sacred being that we are is the being of Ma. And so, in that recognition of our oneness with Ma, we're solving every single problem.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm,
Mm-hmm. And
mm.
everyone on the planet is a child of Ma.
Yeah.
Quite literally, every being on this planet came from Mother and will return to Mother, but literally came from the bone and the blood and the flesh of Ma. That can't be disputed.
No, no.
So we know on a very practical level that all of us come from Ma. And from a Jyotish perspective, so this is another piece of Vedic technology that we have to explain truth, right? All Vedic technology supports truth. Satyameva Jayate. If it's truth on one level, it's truth on all levels. So we use Vedic knowledge and wisdom to just remind and support and reinforce Satyam, purity, right? And the truth resides in purity. And the fourth house, I mean, there are two elements of Ma from the Jyotish chart that I think are brilliant and simple. First is moon, of course. Second is fourth house, which is the house of mother, home, heart, lungs, chest, rib cage, breasts, right? Land. So the moon is the divine feminine, our literally our intelligence. And it's our intuition. It is the state of our consciousness, quite literally, right? And here we are on a full moon day where consciousness and emotional body are full, right? And Ma is the emotional body. Ma is the ocean, right? Moon even pulls the tides, the waxes and the wanes, the emotional body of earth waxes and wanes. And we wax and wane. We're what? Mostly water, right? So even our own physical body is mostly water, Ma. Lunar intelligence is water as well. And the fourth house is land. And even the land and the earth is Ma. We come from the earth, we return to the earth, right? So, I mean, these are just practical reminders. These are just like earth, water. There is no life without earth and water. And we have not been taking care of her for a very long time. So we're disconnected from earth, from land, from home, from homeland. I mean, it's, we're so many of us are working with immigration trauma, ancient ancestral uprooting from our motherland. We don't know our mother tongue. We don't know our mother food. We don't know our mother songs. We don't know the culture of our motherland, the wisdom that we come from, the healing arts that we originate from. We're so disconnected from motherland, quite literally. And then the literal land aspect, right? We're disconnected from land, from ground, from earth. We're disconnected from our emotional body, which again is Ma, the moon, quite literally, our emotional body. And this is where most of us, I would say maybe all, if I could boldly state, that humans are disconnected from their emotional body wisdom as a result of hundreds and hundreds of years of colonization, patriarchy, and misogyny. That is the best way to disconnect a soul from its body, from its humanity. Don't feel. Don't feel what you feel, right? Which is the essence of Ma. Women feel. We have big waves, right? Big emotional body waves. That's part of our intelligence. It's part of our brilliance, and it's part of our watery wisdom of Ma that we are intimately connected with. But women have been disconnected from that intelligence. So For me, why is Ma the answer? Moon is the answer. Land is the answer. Emotional body intelligence is the answer. Coming back to the divine feminine wisdom of our ancestors. Because most indigenous traditions, even if they weren't matriarchal, they centered around the divine feminine, right? That's what was lost with colonization and spiritual warfare, religious trauma, right? Is that disconnection from Ma. And so a big part of what you do, Sharada, in your work is helping women heal this disconnection with the divine feminine, particularly in the womb, what in Jyotish I see as the seventh house, right? The seventh house of the womb.
Mm,
And
mm.
what have you noticed with women and the womb wisdom and the disconnection with the divine feminine? Why the womb? Why why do you care?
Yeah, well, I care because like to make the connection between what I said and what you said. Because maybe some people are like, what? But Sharada said one thing, and then Saraswati Devi said now this thing. So I just want to make the bridge here if somebody
Yeah.
feels a little bit lost. If anyone is listening to us for the first time,
It's Sama. It's the
it's
same, but
we're
make
like
the connection for us. Yeah.
so like we're speaking from different standpoints. So like she was asking me why is this the solution to everything, Ma. So I went directly like to the fundamental problem and seeing that that is like ignorance of not knowing what we truly are essentially. Right? That's what we would that is what Vedanta is like the end portion of the Veda, like Vedanta, Anta is the end, and Veda is this incredible sacred body of knowledge. Like my teacher would say, it's Sahasra Matra. Like Veda is also feminine, Veda. She's Sahasra Matra. Matra means mother, and Sahasra means 1,000 mother. So she's not just 1,000 mother, but he would emphasize she's 1,000 functional mothers. So, and the mother, she only wants the best for her child. Like that's what she wants. She wants the best for her. And so we can go as individuals, as jiva being a transmigrating being, often translated as a soul, but the word soul is not agglomerating the whole depths of the jiva, so the being that is transmigrating from one life into another, and we're all seeking, like we're all seekers, if we know it or not. And so the goals that we have as individuals is dharma, is to be well. When we see other people suffering, we feel that in our hearts. So we want to contribute, unless we're completely disconnected, like when Saraswati just pointed to our disconnection from the motherland, from our emotion, where we stop feeling. But if we wake up, and that's the whole journey of us, to wake up, to feel again, then not dharma is natural. That's the law of nature, to feel, to care, to support. But because we've been so disconnected, the purusharthas, the four human goals, have been shifting. And so what we all seek first is artha, security. We want to be secure, and then kamaha in a nutshell, because there's so much to unfold, but so that I can go to really to the answer that Saraswati asked me. So like, from dharma, we have shifted to just looking for security, hoarding, and trying to survive, basically. And once we have taken care of that, then karma comes in, like pleasure and relative enjoyment. And then people are starting to wake up, which is happening now a little bit, that like we have all the security, even though we feel so completely insecure. We have so much enjoyment and entertainment, and our garage is full, but we feel so empty. So the desire for dharma comes again, because really what gives us pleasure ultimately and enjoyment is dharma. That's really what gives us the joy of life, is dharma. And then once we have discovered that dharma is also relative and limited, then we want moksha, freedom, like freedom from the sense of being insecure, freedom from the sense I'm an unhappy person, freedom from the sense that whatever I do, it's never going to be good enough. Because that's where you come to at one point, especially in this Kali Yuga. It's like, we cannot do any, whatever I'm going to do, it's never going to be good enough, right? But that's not true. Like, that is not true. So we're going to go back there again. But so then the desire for moksha comes, like freedom. I want to be free from this sense of inadequacy. That's when we go to Vedanta. That's when we go to the end portion of the Veda. But as long as we are within the I want, like, and I need security, which we all need, and I need pleasure, which we all need, and we want to contribute, as long as we still identify with being a human, which is part of the journey, with being a woman, and we go to the first portion of the Veda, like the Purva Bhaga is the first portion, that's Veda, the Sahasra Matra, the thousand mothers. And then she says, like, do this ritual to attain that. Don't do this, otherwise you will incur more papam. And so, and when we want moksha, freedom, we go to Vedanta to solve the fundamental problem with which we solve every problem that exists. And so we are speaking here on this both on these two levels. Like, one, I was introducing Ma as the solution to all our problems from the absolute standpoint, by recognizing oneself for what we truly are as love. Like, so then that becomes the foundation, so that we can dive into what we need to dive into, which why I dove into the womb. Because no matter how much knowledge you have of that limitless self, of consciousness, of what we truly are, but if we do not integrate this human experience, like me being born as a woman, as dual culture, brown and white, and acknowledging how I and we all have been affected by what Saraswati was now talking to, the relative level of this system of domination and capitalism and misogyny and colonialism, which we all have been affected in one way or another, if we know it or don't know it yet. Like, if I don't acknowledge, like, that reality and try to bypass, which many spiritual seekers do, which is completely understandable, because you need to have so many tools, actually, and grace to be able to come into relationship with yourself as this human, as this woman, and the capacity to feel what we get to feel in order to heal. So it seems like a catch-22, because it seems like, wow, I need to heal so much so that I can become this integrated person relatively, so that I can abide in the knowledge that I'm limitless. Right? But then I also get to spend time with the teaching of Vedanta or any other teaching that can be a mirror to you that you're limitless here and now, and that takes time. And so basically, that has been my journey. Like, so now to answer the question, like, why I'm entering into the womb, is because I've spent so many years only studying Vedanta. Like, these teachings are very deep in me, and the mantras and the Sanskrit and this incredible body of knowledge of Vedanta and the Vedic wisdom, which I'm so incredibly grateful for. And it's the foundation of everything. But I couldn't enjoy really the fruits of that knowledge, which means accept myself as I am and be without fear, right? Before I dove into the body, basically. Like, that's where then the womb healing came in, and why I'm emphasizing so much the womb healing and the need for that. Because if we are, if we have not integrated this part, it is very difficult to abide in the truth of who we really are, because the emotional being is constantly like nagging and knocking onto the door. But what about me? What about me? What about me? We have all this unresolved trauma from this life and other lives. And for many of us, like Saraswati said, I also would dare to say, like, all of us have this deep um, womb trauma. And the womb trauma being the trauma in relationship to Ma, that we don't have the goddess mother unless we come from the Vedic tradition or any other spiritual tradition. The goddess Ma has just been taken out of the context. Like, we come from the rib of a male. So the mother goddess has been taken out of the picture. then our mother, like our relationship to our own mother, for many of us is fractured. We're afraid of our own mother. Like I can tell you a whole book about that, how I was afraid of my own mother, and then how I'm afraid of my own sister because
Mhm.
we've been raised in this competitive society. So then the woman that is my ally actually and my greatest cheerleader, and that we actually need each other to thrive as a humanity, then that person becomes my enemy, like, because she could suddenly take away the man, which I believe is the reason for my happiness and my security. Because again, that's what we were taught, that we need to have a man or another person to fulfill us and to stay safe. And then we become ourselves a mother, and we're completely overwhelmed with all the expectation of society. And then in many cases, for women, even have difficulty to connect to their own child or own daughter, because now I haven't resolved my wound and mistrust with the ma and my mother and the sister. And now I have a little girl, and I'm just frozen and
Mhm.
numb and incapable of hugging her and loving her and seeing the worth in her, because I'm still carrying myself all this expectation of who I should be, or of what a woman should be. And so it was really through Ma and the goddess worship and getting to know the goddess, who she is, what she is. Like I was speaking now in terms of like the absolute standpoint, but then from there, if we think about like if she's love and she is love, how would love talk? How would love speak? How would love handle a situation? How does love interact? Like all this question, the answer is Dharma. Like so then that's how Ma manifests as Durga Devi, as the great warrior goddess. So Ma as consciousness embodied is Dharma.
Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
so
That's
then
beautiful.
we have Ma in the form of Durga, like she is the goddess of Dharma. And what does Durga do? She protects those that cannot protect themselves.
Mm.
Mm.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So and we get to take care, like, and that's also Dharma. We're often in the value classes, we're emphasizing dharma towards others, like ahimsa paramo dharma. But that value, like the value which is parama, the highest value of all values, to cause least injury, least harm, which most people just think in terms of other people,
Mm-hmm.
that first and foremost is meant for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It is meant for you. And, and we as women were raised to take care of everyone else and to put everyone first. And then as mother, we even compete, like who has done more. Compete with other mothers. Well, I cooked the cookies and I drove them to school and I did this and I did this and I did this and I did this and I need to do it all alone. But
Mm-hmm.
nothing in the whole universe is ever doing anything alone.
Right.
If we look at nature, which Ma
Right.
has
Right. Right.
beautifully described, is Ma manifested as Bhumi Devi, as nature, and Prithvi as the earth, and Apaha, water, and you know. So yeah, I hope I could bridge what we.
The wound of mother, I mean,
Mm,
so what I'm hearing is starting with womb is really the source
yeah,
of healing for women because the wound originates with the disconnection from Ma, right? So if the
exactly.
wound originates from the disconnection with Ma, then in our own bodies, we start there. We start with this disconnection from the Great Mother. This can be emotional body work, right? This is
Mm,
Ma and the womb, quite literally. Um, most people have womb trauma, right? And we know from a Vedic perspective that 25% of our karma actually comes from that 9 month gestation period and the birth process itself, right? So that's going to be your entry point into this body and in this life. And most of us carry trauma from that. And even there's epigenetic trauma in the mother's body, right? And in the females in the lineage, and that impacts the birth process itself. So we go to the source. And more, I just see so clearly how, for men and women, for all identities, all forms of human, the biggest wound is this disconnection with Ma and Divine Feminine. And you tell me a problem, and I will tell you disconnection from Ma. That's the source of the wound, right?
Mm, mm,
And so patriarchy and misogyny and colonization and religious trauma, especially these Abrahamic traditions that are masculine centric, right? One male God. This is the source of that disconnection. This is not original. I mean, all indigenous wisdom is rooted in nature. That's what makes it truth, right? And we see that in all indigenous traditions, different ways of saying the same thing, right?
yeah.
And it's all rooted in nature and the wisdom of nature and feminine, this feminine wisdom that is. And so, if there's a problem, if there's a wound, if there's a trauma, it has to do with the original trauma, this disconnection with the source of nourishment, which is Mother, Ma, Great Mother, in all her forms. And so, lately I've been really contemplating from a Jyotish perspective what that looks like and what that means. Because
Mm,
I'm body centered in the way that I use Jyotish, right? So, okay, so we have this wound, right? What does that look like? How do we determine that? Well, if Moon is Mother and Ma, right? And our relationship with Ma, we can literally look at the moon and the nakshatra of the moon to see what form of the divine feminine you got
mm,
in this life and this body. The expression of your own mother
mm,
is expressed through your moon and your moon nakshatra, the quality of your natal moon, quite literally. And in the Vedic tradition, we have 7 different qualities of nature, right? And
mm,
everything has a quality of nature. There's sharp, there's dreadful, there's wrathful, there's gentle, there's mild, there's, you know, nourishing, there's changeable, like chaotic kind of energies. And we see this in nature. So that's how we know it's true. We look to nature. And so the moon quality that you got in this body and in this life is the quality of Ma that you need to heal in this body and in this life. We can't heal all forms of Ma at once, right? But in
mm,
this lifetime, you received a quality. Maybe it's sharp and dreadful, like tikshna, right? It cuts, it hurts. Maybe that's the form of mother that you need to face in this body, in this life, and heal that wound for you and your lineage, that severing of Ma. And so I see the moon in a very new way now as the form of the divine feminine that you came here to heal.
mm,
And then previous lifetimes, maybe you worked with another form of Ma to heal, right? Because she has many forms. She's not just sweet, she's not just gentle. And I think that that's a mistake that a lot of people make is that mother looks a certain way, that Ma is supposed to be nice all the time, kind all the time, right? Loving all the time. Now, maybe in her pure form, she is love, but even Kali acts out of love, right? but it might not feel good. Her love might not feel good. So, what if you consider that the form of Ma and mother that you received that doesn't feel so good might be the form of the divine feminine that you need to face, that you need to heal in this body and in this life, even if that's a wrathful form. And then we can look to Rahu and Ketu as well, because Rahu and Ketu are literally the shadow, mathematical points, shadow on the moon, right? Well, what does that mean? Shadow on the moon. These are the places in your own intelligence that are shadowed from Ma, from pure forms of Ma, the pure form of Ma, right? Which I find really fascinating. So, this is a new way of even looking at Rahu and Ketu, for me anyway, is to understand how they show us exactly where our own disconnection with the divine
Mm,
feminine lives in our
mm,
body and our consciousness. And
mm,
if we didn't have this illusion around Ma, we would feel her pure form of love and intelligence, right? That pure form of nourishment. But because of this shadow, this disconnection and this shadow, Rahu and Ketu, we're not able to experience her fullness. And then that can help us with our healing process.
mm,
Oh, what is this disconnection? The form of disconnection that I have with Ma.
mm,
Okay,
mm,
well, then I'm going to work with that form,
mm,
right? So,
mm,
using Jyotish in that way to understand our relationship with Ma, the disconnection with Ma, is also a really interesting way to understand the body piece.
mm, mm,
And I wonder, I mean, when we merge with her, when we return to her, we will return to her full form, will her full form of nourishment. We'll experience that fullness of Ma and her divine nourishment. But in this body there are limitations, right? We're here to heal certain disconnections, specific wounds. So there's limitation there. So, how do you use the womb in that guiding of women home, right? Because isn't that Ma? Ma is home, right? Fourth house.
mhm, mm,
So, ultimately, returning home,
mhm.
right,
Yeah,
is the path.
yeah,
How is the womb the way home? And if you
it's
have
yes,
questions, by the way, if you have questions for me or Sharadha, type into the chat and we'll be checking, okay?
yes, yes, Sigrid, I had one. Maybe you want to
Yes,
answer it now or later. She was like, does chanting mantra pushpam connect and heal me? Yes, absolutely.
it
Mm,
can heal Ma,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
Yes,
yeah.
any of the mantras that we chant with bhakti, with
Mm.
devotion, with shraddha, with trust, and it's a prayer because every Vedic chant is a prayer, and prayer is a karma. And if you do a sankalpa, an intention before you pray, like then you're asking for, and you're doing an action to receive what you're asking for. And so, if your intention is to heal and connect with Ma, oh, absolutely. Like
Yeah,
that,
and the power of
and we
Vedic
have,
chanting and
yeah.
Sanskrit is that it's even beyond prayer. You don't even have to believe in it, right?
Yes,
It still works because these
yeah.
are the sounds of nature and the way that nadam actually supports healing in
Exactly.
the body and the nervous system and the collective.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's what I love about Vedic knowledge and technology so much is like you don't even have to believe it. Like
Yeah.
my family members get yagyas. They're
Uh-huh.
all on the yagya list. They don't
Yeah.
know, and they don't believe in
Yeah.
they don't know what a yagya like. My stepdad doesn't know what a yagya is, and it doesn't matter because it still works for him,
Yes.
right? So the mantras are the same, and it's why we want to be careful with the mantras that we use. Um, you know, they have different powers, but if we have a pure intention, it usually goes well. Usually.
Yeah. Yeah. So how is the womb bringing me back home? Well, like it is through the womb that we have come. That's our home. We have come
Yes.
from the womb. We were in the womb for 9 months, as from the standpoint of the jiva, like the individual. We are in the golden womb in Hiranyagarbha our whole entire life, before, during, and after this birth. Like so, we say we are, from one standpoint, always in the golden womb as the goddess Ma, and then goddess Ma manifesting as our mother, as our physical mother, and we have come through her womb, or we come from her womb. If we didn't come through the vaginal canal, if we had a cesarean, but we were still in the womb. And so we all come from the womb, and we all come from sex, like our existence from the standpoint of this human is because there was a sacred union between a sperm and an ovum. And so it is through that sacred act. We don't really would need to use the word sacred, but we do nowadays, because that act is for many not sacred, it is casual, and we don't understand the impact that it has on the physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, karmic level when we are intimate with another being in that way. So when we come back to our womb, to our genitals, in other words, right, basically we, meaning literally with our own hands, mm, and we're making it a sadhana. That's what I have done, a sadhana, a spiritual practice, to touch myself, to touch my own body, with, beginning with sacred touch meaning where there is no agenda, no goal, no expectation other than an honoring, like an honoring of this body that is my temple. I am the presiding deity of this temple. You are the presiding deity of this temple that was given to you by Ma,
Mm.
from the absolute standpoint and the relative standpoint, like from Mother Goddess, nature, Mother Nature, and your own physical mother. Um, so coming to begin with that sacred touch where there is no goal, no expectation, no agenda, other than simply honoring, acknowledging, being present, like say, I'm here with you, I see you, I feel you, and I'm sorry. Like I'm sorry that I haven't been here with you. So many women, they have never touched themselves. So many women have not even seen their own yoni. Um, we all have been, most of us, not all, but many, 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 have been taught like that we're here to please another person. Many people, their first intimate encounter um, was with another person. Maybe some of us had our self encounter with ourselves, but then we don't talk about that. And there's so many myths around it and beliefs also. And many people feel shameful. Even masturbation, the word in Latin means to pollute yourself with your hands.
Mm.
Like so, our whole language that we have when it comes to our own body and self-love, self-pleasure, and our genitals is, we don't have an empowering language. We have medicalized language, we have euphemism, we have swear words, we have child language, but we don't have an honoring language. So it begins like with the language to find a word that is actually honoring for your whole body and especially your womb. And even recognizing that actually all these words that have now derogative meaning, they originally had a sacred meaning. So like bitch,
Mm-hmm.
cunt, or witch, these words were demonized.
Mm-hmm.
And when you trace them back, you see that they have a sacred origin, the etymology, the history. Um, there are no like swear words in Sanskritam, in Sanskrit. That's why Sanskrit, just by chanting it, purifies us, because it's the language of the gods, goddess. It reveals truths, the language itself. It vibrates on the on the frequency, such a new age word, but it resonates with tattva and with truth. And so like how we address ourselves matters. How we touch ourselves, do we even touch ourselves, matters. And through that, we discover that we matter, like you matter,
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts, your body, your desires, they all matter. And so the womb, she tells us because she stores everything, like she remembers everything. Our tissues, they remember. And so coming in touch with our womb makes us realize that most of us were numb and even afraid of our own desires and not feeling worthy for what we want to have and what we actually need in order to heal. We need affection, we need sacred touch, like Ma, that emotional, what you said so beautifully, the moon, like the emotional weather. But I was also say, like she is the touch. She's that matter, the matter. It's the blood, the bone, the liquids.
Mm-hmm.
That's Ma, that's matter, that's mother, that's um and how we get in touch with this is by touching, touching
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, and then breathing into whatever sensations are here and welcoming the underlying emotion that have been stored, pushed away, put in exile, and slowly welcoming this part and and return, like return her into the sanctity and into the sanctity or into the dignity that she always was, that we always were, right? Because then we realize when we touch ourselves that we have feelings of disgust or feelings of shame or hatred or judgments. They live in our tissues. And for me, there has been nothing as powerful as, other than the teachings of Vedanta, but really touching my body with my own hands.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
And waking up those tissues, bringing in blood flow, oxygen, yeah, lubrication, like back into
Mm.
numb tissues.
Mm.
Um, and letting her like be what she is, not having that agenda, not even like making her come, even though orgasms are incredibly healing and beautiful, but also like the often people also kind of force themselves or others to come because then we have achieved what this is meant to do, like the outcome, and then we feel good about that, which is like wonderful. Yes, orgasm to relax, wonderful, but then when you come in touch with Ma and the divine feminine and the womb wisdom, you learn how to relax. And then the orgasm of relaxation comes. Right? That's the deep one, the one that melts all those ice walls and brings
Mm.
those pieces that are in exile really back. So then it's not like a running away from pain or running after. It is meeting what is here. Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
you
so,
really bring up this really good point of the ancestral piece as well, because what is experienced in this body, what we are experiencing in our body, and I'll just say as women, but this applies to men too, is it didn't start here. It didn't start in childhood. It didn't start with this body. You know, this is very ancient. This is very old. This is epigenetic, right? And so much of what we're healing as women right now and what's happening in the collective is healing very ancient traumas, very ancient disconnection with our bodies, very old disconnection with Ma, right? And it would make sense that women are the ones that lead this healing, right? Why would we expect it to start with men? Why would we expect the healing to start with men? That doesn't make sense. In fact, if we come from Ma and we return to Ma, it would make sense that women, as the expressions of Ma and the divine feminine, would lead the healing. And it begins with our own bodies, our own sacred touch, self nourishment, right? Self nourishment, self pleasure. We can't expect that to come from outside of the self. All all sourcing of that comes from within. I mean, that's one of the most powerful teachings of the Vedas, right? Is that Atman, it comes from the self, the Aham Brahmasmi, I am totality, right? I am Brahm. I am the creator. Creation comes from within me. So the healing must come from within as well. And you specifically work with healing sacred sexuality and the womb, the states of the womb that we find ourselves in as women now, in these times. The pain, the grief, the suffering. And yes, there's joy and ecstasy and pleasure as well. But the numbness, the avoidance, the disconnection, this is actually such a powerful conversation, especially for these times, because even what we find, and I sent you something on Instagram, I don't know, it was the other day, and it's about the even how tantra is patriarchal and can be more disconnection for women if we're not really in right relationship with our own body wisdom. Everything can become performance or disconnection, or, you know, not truly in right relationship or harmony with our own bodies. And so it's really a fascinating conversation, and also, I would say, practice, self study, right? When was the last time you touched yourself, and in what way, and what does that look like and feel like? And I think even the basics of Ayurveda are ultimately about self pleasure. I mean, Abhyanga, it's like
Yeah,
touching yourself with oil, right? Like
yeah,
the most basic daily practice.
yeah.
Come back to self touch. Feel your own skin, right?
And that was the medicine. Like for me, when I was a little girl, I had neurodermitis. It's
Mm.
dermatitis all over my body, like my neck, my
Mm.
arms, behind the
Mm.
knees. And I had to like take a bath every night. And then my mom would wrap me with newspaper and
Mm.
aluminum and tape so
Wow.
that I wouldn't scratch myself. So it was really, really
Oh, wow.
bad for years and years and years. And I realized through this like path of healing, and that's why for me I could escape in one way in the Vedanta teachings because
Mm.
it was not body oriented at all.
Mm.
Like it is all going to the source, which is wonderful. Like this is what I needed. I needed the knowledge and the teachings to create that safety, that resource, that foundation, to know that I am whole and
Mm.
complete, essentially. Like that is that truth. It's the truth. You are whole and complete. Like every single one of us, essentially, ultimately. And so for years, I was only able to study this and be in chanting and being in pujas and meditation because it had nothing to do with the body. Like
Mm.
even with yoga, it was difficult for me.
Mm.
I never became a yoga teacher, even though I practiced yoga a lot, but because I just had so much trauma in my body. Um, and but then at one point, I just understood like, wow, I have all this knowledge and understanding, but I'm still experiencing fear in my body. Like I'm not feeling safe and I'm not capable of really touching myself and I'm not capable of touching another and I'm not capable of really being touched by another. I would see these patterns that I was in, like these performative patterns. And I'm like, this something is off here. So what is going on? And and then, yeah, with the grace of the goddess, like Devi Ma, Lalita, for me, I would say it was truly Lalita, Tripura, Sundari, Devi. I learned to chant the 300 names, Lalita Trishati, by heart.
Wow.
I was very proud of myself.
I would be.
Thanks to my dearest revered teacher who had infinite patience sitting with me every day and like teaching me that. But I feel like that again, like I had put my trust into Lalita and chanting her names and asking like, please heal me. Like I have so much shame and self kind of body difficulty of self-touch and other touch. And I know what is the ultimate truth, but I'm not experiencing it. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling safe. And then, yeah, women came into my life, women teacher. Because yes, my Vedanta teacher was a man, and then he did send me to my other Vedanta teacher, who's a woman, and she's absolutely incredible, a Jungian analyst and Jungian psychologist, but she never went into the body, right? So that generation, 70, is even that they brought in psychology was already massive. To bring psychology into it, into spiritual
Mm-hmm.
setups was massive. So that was a huge jump. So they brought in the inner child. But again, like it was not enough. And then through the grace of Lalita, she brought me female teachers in sacred sexuality and sacred touch. And it took so much courage. I'm saying this because maybe some of you like feel like, oh my God, I cannot touch myself. Or like maybe you can identify with that, like that being so enamored and in love with the Vedic knowledge because it's very safe for the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to go into the body, it requires a lot of courage because then when we touch the body and the tissues, then those memories and those beliefs and those emotions they surface.
Yes.
And that's what happened to me. Like then I did start to touch myself, and it was just this sorrow and this grief of this little girl being covered in eczema, and it was really the lack of touch of my mother. Like she could not touch
Mm.
me. Like till this
Mm.
day, she cannot touch me. Like, and
Mm.
we need touch, especially from the mother. Mm.
Right.
That
But
care.
I just want to point out
Yeah,
the medicine here, right?
yeah.
This is exactly what I was saying about the form of mother, the form of ma that you received
Mm.
becomes the medicine, right? So this
Yeah, exactly. You
disconnection
said that.
from
Yeah,
touch with your
yeah,
own mother
yeah,
becomes the path, in
yeah,
fact, that leads you home to mother.
yeah. I got goosebumps. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
And for others, it might be anger or
Mm.
violence or, you know, a numbed out mother that's checked out emotionally, right? But that is the medicine that will lead you home. If we move towards the grief, if we move towards the pain, that becomes the path, the dharmic path, the healing, the medicine. So, I find it fascinating that this wound around not being touched and not having touch from your own mother, quite literally, is what has led you home to self touch, self love, self care, right? And then teaching other women how to do the same.
Mm. Mm.
So the wound leads us back to Ma.
Mm. She does.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also the rebalancing, right? I find it interesting. It's all rebalancing, but our generation of those that grew up with Vedic knowledge or have been immersed in Vedic knowledge for many years, part of what we're doing is bringing a rebalancing, and
Mm.
and that is emotional body. and physical body. The missing pieces, right, that have been sort of left out as it became more cerebral, or in my case, in my tradition, from it's more a Vishnavite tradition, transcendental meditation. It's so much transcendence. Where's the body? We come back to body. Don't forget about the body, you know? So hence body, right? Like I'm all body and emotion and feeling what we feel in order to heal. But those are the things that have sort of been misinterpreted or left out of the
Or even judged, right? If it's too much
judge.
body
Yeah, I'm
oriented,
not my body.
yeah.
But you are. But you still are. Yeah. So we're bringing that rebalancing, right? And that
Mm,
it's not all light all the time. It doesn't, facing your grief, being with your grief, being with emotional body wisdom is your wholeness. We cannot
exactly. Yeah.
push it away. And I think that that's what's so powerful about the womb work that you offer, because this is that place that most women would not look, right?
Mm,
And it's hidden. Literally, our sexual organs are the eighth house in the Jyotish chart, the most hidden house of the chart,
mm,
right?
mm,
We can't see it. It's really easy to avoid.
mm,
In fact, the eighth house is where we do avoid. That's our biggest avoidance, right? And
mm,
that's where our sexual and excretory organs live.
mm,
So yeah, I don't want to look there. It's too
mm.
scary.
Yeah.
It's
And
the
too painful.
darkness,
Yeah.
right? It's past lives even. And so this reclaiming of just touch, connection, you know, awareness even. It's like bringing the awareness to the unconscious, the most unconscious parts of ourselves, especially as women. And I do find that, you know, and then there's the extra piece of like, a lot of people are doing this work right now, but it doesn't mean that it's safe or actually um, the right kind of medicine. Like, you have to be careful, because a lot of what people are teaching in terms of sacred sexuality is actually more harm.
Mm,
It's not helpful. And it's more patriarchal misinformation. So, this is my next question for you, Sharada, is what does decentering men and the masculine mean for you? And why do you feel like that is important for our time? Or do you feel like that's important for our time right now? Decentering the masculine, even in, the forms of the guru or teachers. It's interesting because in the Vedic tradition, and I think both of the traditions that we come from, it's male dominated, it's masculine centric. I mean, even up until my generation, my grandmother's generation, well, she's sort of an unusual case, but, women couldn't even be taught
mm,
these Vedic practices. Women were not included in the holy tradition. And, there's a lot of controversy, if you ask me. Like, why weren't women allowed in the tradition or taught? And so, I have certainly some rage and some grief around that, and being told as a child, women are not able to be enlightened. Only the male physiology can be enlightened. And now I realize that only a woman's physiology can be enlightened. That actually it's the other way around. Like, there's no way a male physiology could ever be enlightened. Like, there's no
uh,
way. But we see, I mean, women can so easily, naturally, awaken to higher states of consciousness. I mean, it's just so natural for our physiology. So, so many lies, so much misinformation. And in my own path right now, I am decentering the masculine and noticing where I have centered the masculine just very unconsciously, right? And even in the Vedic traditions and things like that. So I'm curious where you are right now with this. This is something we haven't fully talked about
Yeah,
outside of session. So,
yeah. First, I want to say when I yawn that it's not because I'm tired, but I yawn because when I release, it's yeah, some burp and all kinds of different ways to
just
release
body
energy.
releasing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's body release. So just for those that are watching and seeing me yawn here all the time, it's like I'm moving, and so decentralizing the masculine or men. I, yeah, I probably would say decentralizing men, like rather than for me the masculine, because the masculine doesn't necessarily mean the male gender. Like masculine can mean sometimes it does, but sometimes it also can mean qualities. And
Mm.
so you would say, yes, I'm decentralizing the unhealthy masculine qualities, but I want to speak to decentralizing men, or male, not the word impact, male input,
Mhm.
male,
Gaze.
that's another, yeah,
Mm.
I did not,
That
yeah.
has been a big one for you recently, actually.
Yeah, we had a big a reel that went viral because
A wheel that went
there was
viral.
male gaze and we brought out the Kali, and yeah, it's like 300,000 views or something. Yeah, yeah, the women loved it. It was about like what to do if the male makes videos of you or takes pictures,
Mhm. Without
and
consent.
without consent. Yes,
And
exactly.
that, go check Sharadha's Instagram for those videos. Yeah.
Underneath somewhere there. Um, yeah, so it's very like personal in the sense that I have had a male teacher for more than 15 years. Um, and I've just gone through this massive untying, uncording, and
Mm.
now centering myself, basically, and centering the
Mhm.
women. I mean, I've been doing that for a long time, really, centering women, women's circle, women's teacher. But there was still a samskara, a deep impression, a deep karmic imprint of like, I need to have a male person in my life
Mm.
to be safe, to get validation, to get reassurance. And I was seeing the pattern of adjusting myself in the presence of certain male characters in order to be liked, in order to be validated, in order to impress. Um, Even like me as a Vedanta teacher, if you know me from 5, 6, 7 years ago, um, I I'm still me, but there was also kind of like a character there. I could step into this Vedanta teacher role, and I felt very secure in it. But then also I felt I couldn't show myself personally with my feelings and my stories and my processes to my students or to the community because I can't show that part. Like as if you're a teacher and facilitator, you have to have it all together. And then I had the role models of my teachers, and they are, yeah, who they are, incredible beings. And I'm naturally, of course, not there where they are at in the relative. Um, but so to come to a place where I can know I'm going to now embrace this insecure and emotional and hurt and broken parts and also share them with my community and in my teachings. Like I can have the knowledge strong and I can show these parts that are still catching up and growing and learning. And before, like that's what I mean, like with decentralizing this male perspective or male approach, because in the or old paradigm, older generation, older previous way of teaching, it's very rarely to see a teacher showing those parts. I mean, if you're close to a teacher, they would maybe show some and share some of those stories. But
Sure.
I feel like now in this time where we are, so many, and when I look at women, how we have shared through history or her story, we always shared through stories. We shared through these initiations that we go through the pain and through like being together in the red tent and bleeding together and crying together and going through that emotional discharge and then rising again and celebrating each other in our summertime and when we're horny and turned on, and so that is the feminine way, and I craved for that so much, and when I do that now I feel so at home. It feels real, it feels authentic. I feel like I'm not disconnecting from this part just to be liked and
Hmm.
taken serious.
Or be a more pure teacher or a more
Yes,
evolved
exactly.
teacher that we don't show any
Yeah.
parts of ourselves or our own humanity. That's been a huge part of my
Yeah.
change in my teachings is
Mm,
becoming more vulnerable in the authenticity and sharing parts of me that I wouldn't have shared 5 years ago. And
mm,
actually, the feedback from my students is
mm,
they love it. They
mm,
feel more connected, and um, I feel more honest and authentic. And I think there's a safety in that, right? We
mm,
know when people are performing, especially teachers. And in the yogic realms, um, there's a lot of puritanical sort of performance that doesn't lead to safety.
mm,
Like, I
mm,
feel safer with a teacher who tells me, shows me who they really are, so that
mm,
then I can make a decision. Like, this is someone I want to walk with, or no, thank you, this doesn't feel in alignment. But if you don't share those parts of yourself, and I'm not saying all the parts, right? But like
no, yeah.
some sense of humanity here and like what you feel and what you're noticing and what's happening in your life a little bit, like that feels more natural and
Mm,
honest.
mm, mm,
So, what do you mean by so what masculine traits, characteristics, expressions do you feel are important? So, not completely decentering men to the point of no masculine, right? Then we're imbalanced.
yeah. Because I am the male also, right? Like that's where
Yeah.
ultimately like I am that too, and probably in my
Yeah.
past life I was a man, and the men were
We have a
women.
father. I
I
mean,
mean,
all the
well,
things,
it's
sun,
yes, I have a
moon. Yeah.
brother, I have a nephew, and and I see how they're struggling, and I see how much they want, and at the same time, it is not my role to save them, and I have been kind of like really wanting to save the male. I have had a pattern with old
We
relationship
got a pattern here,
saving
an
man.
ancestral wound.
Yeah. And then I
At
put
least you're
myself
honest.
into, yeah, I put myself into like a situation where like, really, Sharada? And and again, it's karmic and it's all in order, learn my lessons.
Hmm.
But like in that way, it's decentralizing that I, I feel like for the first time now, after 40 years, I feel truly that there is no like I'm not making a sankalpa to be in a relationship, for example. Like it's
Hmm.
like I would still make
Hmm.
sankalpas, intentions. I want to be in a relationship. I want to attract that perfect partner, not perfect in the sense, but like the one for me, so that I can do my dharma, and how so many of my friends they actually have beautiful partnerships,
Mm.
and raising children. And that was just never, that was not my karma in this life. And coming to that acceptance.
Yeah.
And now, and if it still happens, okay, then that's in Ishvara's order. But coming to acceptance with my dharma and who I am in this life, and really purging this patriarchal belief that I need to have a man in
Mm.
order to be fulfilled, in order to be desired, in order to be turned on, in order to experience pleasure. Like, since my self love, self pleasure, self exploration journey and becoming my own best friend and lover, like, I have discovered myself so deeply that it requires a man that has worked a lot, like, to be able to meet me in the way that I would want to be met, really. And
Mm.
like, actually any one woman would want to be met,
Yeah.
and needs to be met. Like, just our bodies, like you said, physiologically are differently wired, and to have that patience with a woman, and not to see that like, okay, I'm patient, but to actually really enjoy
Yeah.
being in a foreplay of 40 minutes, of 60 minutes, and tending to the skin and the body, and not with that outcome. Like, that is the fruit of all these years of being with myself. And for many people, if that's like unbelievable, like unthinkable, like to just, yeah, spend so much time in the foreplay and not having an outcome and really nurturing. And then at the same time, when I talk to women, like, every woman is just melting hearing it.
Mm.
And so, like, and there was this imprint so deeply in my system also, and psyche, that, like, and even it still comes, the fantasy, naturally, because that was the imprint through movie and all kinds of different stories, Cinderella story, that we need to have a man in order to be complete and in
Mhm.
pleasure. And that also we need to have a man to be safe. Like, that is also biologically, even it's biologically we're wired like that. So understanding these different levels, like biologically and psychologically, emotionally, and then spiritually, we get to look at all these levels and of programming and beliefs, and then meet one by one. So that what I had to do, and I'm doing and teaching, so then to decentralize, like, the
Mhm.
male, that, and I'm
Yeah.
here, the nurturer of the male or the masculine. We're not, like, it should be the opposite, really. Like, we as
Yes.
women, we are the bearer of life. We are the clock, really, like the
Mhm.
time. Our cycles, our bodies give way to time, and then the male would tend to the woman, like, take care of the woman, protect the woman, go
Exactly.
by her clock. We are going by their clock, like the linear way.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah.
and that's the decentralization also, by putting ourselves, our clock, our time, our own needs at the center, and not compromising our own needs to fulfill someone else's. But that brings us in touch with our survival, with our, yes, with our fear of survival, because
Mm.
it's so deeply ingrained, like, that if I'm not going to please this person, if I'm not going to tend to them, they won't love me anymore. And if I'm not loved, then who am I? I, I can't exist without love. No, you cannot exist without love, but you are love. So then that's the discovery, that of who and what you truly are.
Yeah.
And there is no better way than, for me, than self-touch and being with women, basically.
Mm. Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah. That is actually the biggest shift that's taken place for me as I've continued to peel back the layers and decenter men,
yeah.
particularly male gaze, misogyny, patriarchy, internalized patriarchy. And the conclusion, or where I am now in that journey, it's, I mean, simple questions like, is this what my body really wants? From what I wear to what I say, what I do when I'm alone, when I'm with others, you know, what does my body really need and want? Or where is this coming from? Where is this
Yeah.
desire coming from?
Yeah.
Is it a desire to nourish myself or, you know, someone else, right? Because we're conditioned as women to please someone else at all times.
Yeah.
Everything is about the other, right?
Yeah.
So that's been a huge part of it. And then with relationships with men, particularly, like I deserve to be cherished as a goddess, as a form of the goddess, as an expression of the goddess in all her forms. So if that's not available, if that's not there, I don't, I'm not interested, right? And I think that what you're saying about it needs to switch, right? And for so long, it and the conditioning for hundreds of years has been other, 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 masculine, masculine, masculine. How can we receive that love in order for safety, like this perceived sense of safety? What if, imagine a world where it was the other way around, where all was devotion to the feminine, all is in service of and devotion to the feminine, as because we know that it's the expression of Ma and the divine feminine. What if our world was centered around forms of Ma and her expression? And I personally, now everything that shows up in my life, the challenges particularly, I see as expressions of Ma showing up for me to work with her.
Mm.
The
Mm.
discomfort, right? The, I mean, even like I'm thinking of certain characters or people that show up and they're difficult characters. And it's like, huh, an interesting form of Ma for me to work with. Like, how should I respond to
Mm.
her chaos,
Yeah.
right? So,
Mm.
how do we, and I believe that this is starting now, and that this wave of women waking up and decentering men, saying no more, putting our bodies first, stepping into our power, um, really reclaiming a sense of agency and sovereignty in our own beings. This is the tides turning, right?
Yeah.
Rebalancing away from patriarchy and misogyny and even colonization and the religious trauma that we have all endured for so many hundreds of years, and beginning to recenter the feminine. And it starts with women, it starts with our bodies, it starts with us saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I mean, just imagine 1, 2, 3 generations from now, if the majority of women are simply just saying, no, I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah.
How different will this world be? And I mean, the younger women, they're savage. Like, they're
Mhm.
doing it.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing it and we're talking about it. We've come really far, but like the young women, I watch them, I'm like, damn, you're savage and you just came that way, like, and
Yeah.
you're doing it. And there's like
Yeah.
zero apology
Yeah.
or like explanation, and
Yeah.
it really is incredible to witness. And
Yeah. It
just
is.
imagine like 2, 3 generations from now
Yeah.
with that energy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
She's fierce.
Yeah. It is.
So,
Yeah.
how is the Davy Village part of this change
Mhm.
that's happening right now? You have this vision.
Yeah. Yeah. The Devi village, we call it now the mother village because not
Oh, Mother
everyone
Village.
knows what, like people that study Vedic knowledge know
Mm-hmm.
of Devi, but otherwise people don't know what Devi is. So we call it
Mm.
the mother village. And the vision is to build the world first replicable blueprint of a matricentric village in Bali, with on-site and on-site and online education, and womb sanatorium, where like womb healing is at the centers for women to heal from all the sexual trauma, and restore attachment, security, and the mother-child diet, which
Mm,
is the foundation of human well-being. Mother-child diet. If mother is not safe, the child cannot develop a healthy, safe, secure attachment style, which then has led to the global intimacy
mhm.
disorder, and in its worst extremities to all the SA that is surfacing now. Has been there for a long time, but now we know more of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the mother village is that, yeah, vision, prayer, project, movement, to because Mother Bali is a place where many people come for healing.
Mm.
It is like a mental sacred hospital.
Uh-oh.
Like that's the part. There's a lot of waste, unfortunately. It's kind of very metaphorically,
Yeah.
everyone leaves their waste there, and then there's a lot of waste, and yet also
Mm,
it is the number one place of offerings apart from India,
mm,
um, with daily offerings and prayers for swastihi, for moksha, and just the Balinese women are just such an incredible role model of community and support. And
mm.
I've been living in Bali for 17 years, so I do have a strong uh, connection with it, and people that I know. So it felt more doable to open a village like that in Bali that then can be
Yeah.
replicable in other countries
Mhm.
and places, so that there like would be a mother village in every town, in every place where women and beings, people can come and go through grieving circle and womb healing and restore and
Mhm.
feel a sense of belonging. And it's a combination of wellness center and the church and yoga centers, but like all these places, the church and the wellness center, the yoga centers, they're not providing like that long-term residency and emphasis on the mother-child diet that needs to take place in order to,
Mhm.
yeah, restore
Yeah.
uh, the intimacy
Yeah.
disorder to an order and a safe attachment style. So, yes, we've been a group of women, diligently putting our hearts and minds and wombs together. And we're going to have Navaratri, the 9 nights of the Goddess Festival, in October, that we're going to celebrate. I have done, like you, the Inner Jyotish Summit. I've done the Sharada Navaratri for maybe 6 or 7 years, always an online festival, and this time for the very first time we're going to have it in person in Bali and hybrid, so it will be both, with that collective shared intention sankalpa for a mother village to be birthed, and then have an online mother village community to support with education and initiate into the archetype of the mother, like through in reverential ways, and
Mhm.
then educate in how to mother ourselves, how to mother a child, how to mother a community, and be the mother of the universe, basically. So,
Law.
yes, that's in a nutshell.
Yes. So the
Mm.
vision is very big. It's a global initiative,
Yeah.
essentially,
Mm.
ultimately. And some of us have, we want to be maybe satellite or sister villages, and
Yeah.
we're still part of the vision that
Yeah.
that you're creating. And there's a lot of this happening around the world, actually. Many
Yeah.
women have this desire to have women's villages
Yeah.
and sacred, safe space for women specifically,
Mm.
women only communities. And I think these times are about rebalancing. And so it makes sense, right?
Mm.
And you're going to the source, essentially, right? Like the source is mother, the source is Ma. So Healing must begin there.
Mm. Yeah,
That's where it begins.
it does.
And
Mm.
so come do spring Navratri with the Inner Light Summit, and then come do Mahanavratri in the fall, or our fall, with you, Sharadha, and the amazing uh, Mother Village that's coming as well. So there'll be an
Mm.
online version. Make sure you sign up for Sharadha's newsletter offerings website so that you can get those details. I will link to that in the podcast recording so people can be sure to check in with you and follow along. What is this self love journey that you take people on? And tell us, as we close today, give us a taste of what you can expect, what they can expect in this self love process.
Yeah, so tomorrow on full moon, we're launching the Bible journey, BYBL, the Be Your Best Lover, reclaiming the word Bible, Bible journey. And it's a 7-day free email journey with also recorded models where I'm going to take you through um, finding a language that is honoring and recognizing exactly how many words have been demonized, then meeting the goddess Lalita so that she can be also part of your journey of returning to sacred beauty, to sacred self-acceptance and self-love. And then there is a journey of the body, mind, womb, healing meditation, and the Ho'oponopono prayer. So it's a 7-day free email with live models, which we're launching tomorrow. And then those that want to continue, they can have 5 more models where we dive deeper. Like, so the first part is the outer temple, and then the next part is going into the inner temple. And this is a really great way to get to know me and the teachings. And it's also an invitation then to join the long cohort, which is the golden womb, where we go through yeah, a profound
Mm.
decolonization of the womb and
Mm-hmm.
return to your sacred powers over 1.5 year to with Vedic knowledge and somatic embodiment and sacred sexuality. And yeah, because I know that this journey of returning to sacred wholeness and dignity, it's not a fast track, at least
No.
not in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all about long and deep and time.
Mm-hmm.
So the Golden Womb is my big program,
Yeah.
and where I, yeah, train people then to also become a Devi coach, a devoted, embodied, vital or Vedantic integrated coach that can then help other women to stand in their power again. Mm.
So if you want to start the process or learn,
Yeah,
then this is where you begin, is the
yeah.
Be Your Best Lover.
Hmm.
And so we'll link to that as well in the podcast recording.
Yeah.
And that way you can start this process with Sharadha and learn, discover her method and the way that she shares her unique blend, integration of resources, tools, and wisdom. And of course, many years of this journey that you've been on come through your teachings and your gentleness and your kindness as well. There's a lot of um, there's a sense of safety in this process that I think is truly special.
Mm.
So, thank you so much for sharing today with us. And if anyone has questions here as we close, feel free to type into the chat. And we will be linking to Sharadha and her offerings in the podcast recording, both on my blog and also in the newsletter. And we're also posting to YouTube as well. So, multiple places where you can receive these recordings and resources. Any other resources you want to share for these times, Sharadha? Anything that feels important for women, specifically on their dharmic paths?
Meet up with other women,
Mm-hmm.
create Dharma circles, women's circles, and give a moment of presence and listening to each other's stories without any judgments, without any agenda, expectation other than just validation for what we go through, like rather than fixing each other and like being there for each other and making it like a ceremonial way, because it can easily get that when we go into sharing circles that it becomes this endless talking talking talking. But when it has a structure and all it requires is, okay, everyone has 5 minutes, 8 minutes, and you speak from the felt sense, like this is what I'm feeling right now, so that the body is included as I'm speaking. And then after having shared, have a moment of silence or chant a mantra together or dance a song, so to integrate what has been shared but without commenting or pitying or criticizing, other than just full validation and love. And it's kind of an offering, like the story, including the emotions, that becomes the offering at the altar, at the abode of love, of
Mm.
Ma. That and then we're practicing self-acceptance in that.
Mm.
And that
Mm.
I feel is a profound resource. And it doesn't need to be many women. I can do it with one. I just last 2 nights ago I slept with my sister. That would be another resource underneath the sky, but without the roof, underneath the stars, and we just made a comfy bed and we slept outside together, and that was profoundly resourcing,
Mm.
actually, to be outside sleeping
Yeah.
in nature. Yeah. And then sharing, like, yeah, can be 2 women, three, four, 5 women,
And of
and
course, you're
maybe
in
the
a very
feminine.
beautiful place right now, which helps.
Yeah. It
But
does.
even if you can't be, you know,
Yeah.
the sleeping outside is and with nature is truly so healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So coming together as women and connecting heart to heart, sharing emotion, feelings, needs, experiences without judgment,
Yeah.
without an agenda, um, doing grief ritual. These are the things that we need as women more and more and more, especially right now. It's happening more and more. Both Sharada and I offer these resources as well. So come work with us, right? And for those of you who are not clear yet on your dharmic path and you're still struggling, what is my dharma? What is my offering? Come do Vedic counseling. This is not the time to be struggling or confused or in doubt. We need you to be clear. We need you to be embodying your gifts and your wisdom at this time. And I have resources for you. And let's just mention as we close the importance of this Jupiter exalted in Cancer right now in regard to the divine feminine, right? Because Cancer is the fourth house and ruled by Moon, and it is the seat of the emotional body. So the feeling. And Jupiter brings this expansion. So a lot of people are predicting, oh, exalted Jupiter, it's going to be wonderful. My take is a little different, but just even consider how right now the oceans are expanding, right? The emotional body is expanding, and even the oceans are reflecting this. Like, quite literally, the oceans are rising. So there's this expansion of water taking place. We're feeling that in our own bodies, like our own inner landscape has this expansive water emotional quality coming with it as Jupiter expands. So even with this full moon, you may notice that the tides are high, right? The emotional body is strong right now. The inner waters are strong. Feel your emotions. Be with the feelings. Be with your grief. And Jupiter is going to continue to expand our capacity, our emotional body capacity, over the coming many months. And some of that is going to be uncomfortable, right? Expansion isn't always expansive. Expansion doesn't always feel good. There's a pinch even with the expansion. So that's just an important reminder for the times because the feminine is expanding. When Jupiter goes into Leo, it's going to be more about the masculine, right? And there'll be restructuring coming with that Jupiter K2 conjunction. But right now, it's very much about expanding Ma, expanding the feminine, the emotional body, the feminine. And it's a very powerful time for women, for Divine Mother, Divine Feminine. And listen carefully to your body. Listen carefully to your emotional body. This is this is a incredible cycle for healing our relationship with our own emotional body as well as divine feminine and our own mothers, in fact. So there may be elements of that showing up on your path and your dharmic path. And listen, ask for help, gather resources, and remember that your ancestors are here guiding and supporting you on this dharmic path. Jema,
Yeah.
I'm going to let you go to sleep now, Sharada, because I know it's getting late over there in Zurich. And let's close as well with the chant to Mother. And
Mhm.
I'm just going to offer my Ganesha mantra again. This is where I come home, and so I'll do a little Shani Dev, and then I'll do
Mm.
Ganesha, and then I'll hand it over to you and close us
Mhm.
with some Devi, as you do so well. Okay. Om Nilanjana Samavasham Ravi Putram Yamagrajam Chayamartanda Sambutam Tam Namami Shanaishcharam Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha Om Shanti 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 Jema.
ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ जय मां ॐ
Jema.
श्रीमात्रे नमः Thank you everyone so much and all those that have been here also live with us. Thank you so much and thank you Saraswati for you, your love, your wisdom, your deep, deep embrace of Ma that you are.
Hmm.
Mm,
Thank
mm,
you, Sharada, for your
mm,
gifts and your wisdom, your medicine, the ways that you are healing women, wombs, this planet, one Devi at a time.
mm,
It's a pleasure to walk with you and to call you
mm,
a friend.
Sama-sama. Likewise.
Enjoy your travels, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. And thank you
Me
all for
too.
being here and listening to the recording as well. And I'll see you here again next month, last Monday of the month, noon Mountain Time, for another important conversation with a divine feminine wisdom guide. More to be revealed on that. All right. Take good care, everyone. Bye.
Tema. Oh.
Jema.